morning, Chief.
Okay, Lennox nguwe?
Yes, Chief.
Okay. Okay, good morning, colleagues. I think Minister Nomvula Mkhonyane, Minister of Communication, will be addressing you on the post-cabinet briefing on matters that were discussed in cabinet yesterday. Over to you, Minister.
Thank you. Still on probation. Thank you very much. Morning, everybody. We're presenting the statement post to the cabinet that set yesterday on current issues around the economy. Amongst other things that cabinet has noted is the growth by 1.3% in the economy in 2017 and an increase from 0.3% in 2016. What we have realized is that the performance of the economy has taken place under difficult conditions, and it actually does bode well for the country's future economic prospects. It requires on all of us South Africans to continue to work together and support every initiative, consult and find one another where there are contradictions. The growth figures signal that the economy is on the upward trajectory, with Treasury expecting the economy to expand by 1.5 this year and accelerate to 2.1 in 2020. Cabinet calls on all sectors of society to build on the positive momentum and work with government to translate its plans into concrete action to sustain economic growth and create jobs. On land reform, Cabinet welcomes the adopted motion to amend the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa of 1996 so as to allow for the expropriation of land without compensation. Since 1994, Cabinet does note that a lot of work has happened from then to reverse the legacy of land dispossession under colonialism and apartheid, and that working within the law, government has done a lot to ensure the continued productivity of the land, while speeding up the processes of redress for those affected by land dispossession, including property ownership. The matter has been referred to the Constitutional Review Committee that must report back to Parliament by the 30th of August 2018. The recommendations of the National Assembly will be informed by a series of public hearings followed by committee meetings. Cabinet calls on all stakeholders to make their inputs during this process of engagement, which will guide the solutions to take our country forward. As a caring and people-centered government, all stakeholders will be engaged during this process, and we also commit to make sure that we will appreciate any feedback that can enhance the approach towards land utilization, both for agriculture as well as for property ownership, particularly in the urban areas, without antagonizing one another. Cabinet further urges communities to desist from illegal land invasions. We are a law-abiding and peace-loving country with adequate mechanisms of dealing with issues, including the land issue. South Africa remains open for business and investments in agriculture and farming. It is in South Africa's interest to have commercial farmers, and this process can ensure we have even greater numbers of successful commercial farmers, but also transformed property ownership patterns. The Nofingana Communities Double Drift Wildlife Economy Project. Cabinet welcomes the launch of the Nofingana Communities Double Drift Wildlife Economy Project. At Double Drift Nature Reserve in the Eastern Cape, this project was launched by Minister of Environmental Affairs, Minister Edna Molewa. This included the handing over of the title deed to the Likhayalethu Communal Property Association on behalf of the Minister of Rural Development and Land Reform, Ms. Maite Nkwana-Mashabane. The Double Drift community were dispossessed of their residential and grazing rights by the 1913 Land Act. In 1994, this community lodged a land claim which was settled in 2012, resulting in Likhayalethu Communal Property Association being established. The Likhaele 2 CPA consists of 1,500 double drift community members and has received 6 million rands from the Department of Environmental Affairs to develop a wildlife economic business venture in the farm Nodehoek. The transaction was processed through the Department of Rural Development and Land Reform. On the VBS Mutual Bank, Cabinet has noted the South African Reserve Bank's announcement with regard to the VBS Mutual Bank. The appointed curatorship is expected to give support to the VBS Mutual Bank and assist in restoring its liquidity challenges, and so as to serve the interests of the public and in particular VBS depositors. Cabinet remains committed to the diversification and transformation of the financial sector without jeopardizing interests of the depositors. On the investment campaign, Cabinet welcomes the CEO's No campaign by Brand South Africa in collaboration with business leadership of South Africa to promote South Africa as an investment destination. This builds on our world-class infrastructure through Invest SA one-stop shop, research and development capabilities, innovation, and an established manufacturing base to support investors. New growth areas have also been opened in the oceans economy, renewable energy, the green economy, and shale gas exploration. The campaign features CEOs from multinational corporations based in South Africa, sharing their insights on continued investments in South Africa. Cabinet encourages all South Africans in the spirit of Tuma Mina, sweeping across our nation, to play their part by sharing their positive stories to build our country's reputation and grow its investment appeal. On the IPPs, Cabinet has noted the High Court case filed by 2 non-governmental organizations regarding government's decision to sign the power purchase agreements with 27 IPPs. The matter will be concluded by the High Court on the 27th of March 2018. In the spirit of constitutionalism and the rule of law, the signing has been postponed. Cabinet affirms the commitment to resolve the matters around such programs. These projects will provide, as it has been presented to Cabinet, 61,600 full-time jobs, 95% of which are for South African citizens, specifically targeting young people. Cabinet reaffirms its commitment to a solid public-private partnership as we pursue our energy transition objectives of the future and a better life for all. This is needed to bring much-needed policy and regulatory certainty and maintain South Africa's position as an energy investment destination of choice. And once more, in the spirit of Tuma Mina and partnership, including collaboration, the Department of Energy will continue to engage with critical stakeholders, particularly organized labor, communities that may be affected, youth organizations, as well as any other interested party, to ensure that we find one another in the pursuance of growing our economy in a much more inclusive manner without undermining the concerns that have been raised by organized labor. On listeriosis, Cabinet extends its heartfelt condolences to the families and friends of those who lost their lives after contracting listeriosis, and wishes those who are recuperating a speedy recovery. More than 180 people died, and 940 cases were reported in South Africa. Cabinet is encouraged by the intensive efforts of the Department of Health, the National Institute for Communicable Diseases, and the World Health Organization to stop the Listeria bacteria from spreading. To further strengthen these efforts, the Minister of Health, Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi, will meet with the South African Nursing Council on Thursday, the 15th of March 2018. Cabinet acknowledges that the positive progress made in identifying and isolating the source of the deadly listeriosis outbreak and subsequent recall of food products from 3 enterprise and rainbow meat processing plants where the bacteria was found was a defining moment to stop the outbreak. The foodborne disease was first identified in June 2017. Listeriosis is a serious and preventable illness that can be treated successfully with antibiotics. Those most at risk are pregnant mothers, very young infants, elderly persons, and people with a weakened immune system. People who show symptoms of fever, muscle aches, nausea, or diarrhea should visit their medical practitioner or local clinic immediately. Cabinet is optimistic that South Africa will defeat the current outbreak and urges all people to observe the 5 food safety rules during this time. Wash hands with soap and water before handling food and after using of a bathroom. Cook food thoroughly and do not eat half-cooked food, as the Listeria bacteria will die when food is well cooked. Do not handle raw and cooked food together. Keep food at appropriate temperatures and make sure that all milk products are pasteurized or at least parboiled, and wash non-cooked food with clean running water before ingestion, or at least with pre-boiled water. Those with any uncertainty related to listeriosis may contact the National Institute for Communicable Diseases on 011-386-6400, 011-386-6400. On the SASSA matter related to social grants, Cabinet was briefed on the state of readiness by the South African Social Security Agency to provide the hybrid model in the distribution of social grants to beneficiaries on the 1st of April 2018. This is in line with the Constitutional Court judgment that ordered the extension of the current contract with the Cash Pay Master Services up until the 31st of March 2018. Cabinet reiterates its commitment to government social assistance program, which is at the heart of our poverty alleviation initiatives and central to restoring the dignity of our people. Cabinet is satisfied that the beneficiaries of social grants will be paid from the 1st of April 2018 without any glitches. The current SASSA cards remain valid until December 2018. The process of changing the beneficiary cards will be done in a seamless manner that will not disrupt the payment of grants. All beneficiaries who receive their grants through their respective pay points, which includes commercial banks, the South African Post Office, and other retailers, would also be assisted. Cabinet calls on those who do not have bank accounts to visit their nearest post office branches to open their accounts. Cabinet has instructed the SASSA, together with GCIS, to do everything possible to inform all the beneficiaries of any possible changes that may take place in the process of transition from CPS to the new hybrid model. Cabinet remains committed to ensuring government adheres to the Concord judgment. SASSA offices will be open and ready to process the new applicants. Cabinet urges all members of the public, especially beneficiaries and their families, to contact SASSA on 0800-601011 or visit the nearest SASSA office for more information. On voter registration, Cabinet joins the Independent Electoral Commission and President Ramaphosa in thanking all South Africans who heeded the call to register to vote or to update their address details in the past weekend's voter registration drive. Excuse me. This is a milestone that we all have actually been striving for in preparation for the 6th national and provincial elections expected to take place in 2019. A total of 2.8 million citizens visited voting stations over the past weekend. Of the 2.8 million plus voters who visited their voting stations, just over 1.3 million re-registered in their current voting districts. More than 800,000 changed their registration to a new voting district. Almost 500,000 were votes registering for the first time. And of the new voter registrations, 82% were under the age of 30 and approximately 52% were women. The province of Gauteng saw the most new registrations of 23.7%, followed by KwaZulu-Natal with 18.8% and Limpopo with 17%. The Eastern Cape had the highest level of registration at 87%, followed by the Free State at just over 82%, and KwaZulu-Natal, Limpopo, and Northern Cape at 79%. Gauteng's overall registration is at 67.3%. The IEC reported that the voters' roll now stands at 26.2 million voters, which roughly equates to 75% of the eligible voting population based on Statistics South Africa voting age population estimates. About 300,000 citizens who visited voting stations are among the almost 2.8 million voters for whom the IEC did not have an address going into the weekend. An up-to-date and accurate voters' roll affirms the credibility of the voters' roll and strengthens our democracy by ensuring free, fair, and credible elections. Cabinet calls on all South Africans who were not able to visit their local voting stations over the past weekend to visit their local IEC office or their municipalities to verify and complete their addresses. Alternatively, use the IEC's online facilities and the app that remains available 24 hours a day for registered voters to check and update their address details. Cabinet joins the Minister of Sport and Recreation, Minister Thoko Xhasa, in denouncing the barbaric act of violence against a young triathlete, Mhlengi Gwala, who was attacked with a chainsaw while cycling in KwaZulu-Natal. Cabinet wishes the athlete a speedy recovery and extends a warm thank you to the medical team of St. Augustine Hospital who are caring for him. Crime has no place in our society, and Cabinet calls on communities to work together with law enforcement agencies to bring the criminals to book. Under the leadership of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs Minister Zweli Mkhize, government has declared a national state of disaster to deal with the country's drought and water crisis. Cabinet extends its appreciation to those in South Africa who continue to save water and the relentless efforts made by the Interministerial Committee on Drought, together with stakeholders in all spheres of government and society, in dealing with the persistent drought conditions that have hit several parts of our country. Apart from the fact that South Africa is a water-scarce country, Cabinet is assured that we remain a preferred choice of destination for tourists. On decisions taken in Cabinet, Cabinet approved that the agreement annexure of the Southern African Development Community SADC Protocol on Finance and Investment be tabled in Parliament for ratification. The purpose of this is to harmonize financial and investment policies of SADC member states so that they are consistent with the objectives of SADC. This will ensure that any changes to financial and investment policies in one member state does not necessitate undesirable adjustments in other member states. The aim of the amendments are to preserve the right of governments to regulate in the public interest and to balance the rights and obligations of investors and government. Cabinet approved the tabling of the revised and renamed United Nations Standard Minimum Rules for the Treatment of Prisoners in Parliament. The renaming of the Standard Minimum Rules to Nelson Mandela Rules honors the legacy of former president who spent 27 years in prison. There's also been a worldwide extension of the Nelson Mandela International Day scope observed by the UN member states on 18 July to promote humane conditions of imprisonment, raise awareness about prisoners being a part of society, and value the work of prison staff as a social service. The rules will assist South Africa to speed up transformation towards a people's developmental correctional system that is consistent with various international principles and guidelines. On the bills that were presented in Cabinet, Cabinet approved submission of the Prevention and Combating of Hate Crimes and Hate Speech Bill of 2018 in Parliament. This bill aims to create the offenses of hate crimes and hate speech, and to put in place measures to prevent and combat these offenses. It intends to address violence against persons on the basis of prejudice. It will also give effect to South Africa's obligations in terms of international human rights instruments. Cabinet approved for the ICAMVA National E-Skills Institute Bill 2018 to be submitted to Cabinet, to Parliament, I beg your pardon. The bill provides for the establishment of INESI as a legal entity with its own legislation to address e-skills, which are the digital skills capacity challenges in South Africa. Capacity development of e-skills is seen as of the priority areas of government in building an inclusive economy and to establish a capable and a developmental state. This institute will act as a national catalytic collaborator as well as a change agent for the development of digital skills and organizational capacity in South Africa. Cabinet approved the introduction of the Hydrographic Bill of 2018 in Parliament. The bill seeks to recognize and grant legislative status to the Office of the Hydrographer, which has been in existence in the Department of Defense since the inception of hydrographic services in South Africa. This is actually located in the South African Navy. It will enable the hydrographer of the South African Navy to be recognized as the national hydrographer. It will ensure that the provision of hydrographic services is formalized and enacted into law. This is in line with the International Maritime Organization and the International Convention for the Safety of Life at Sea, which is an international maritime treaty that sets minimum safety standards in the construction, equipment, and operation of merchant ships. On the upcoming events, the 2018 National Human Rights Month commemorations will be held under the theme, The Year of Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela, promoting, and deepening a human rights culture across society. The national event will take place on the 21st of March 2018 at George Thabe Cricket Pitch in Sharpeville, Vereeniging in Gauteng. Cabinet urges all sectors to pay homage to this National Day, which celebrates South Africa's human rights tradition and honors people such as Madiba, who paid the ultimate price, as well as those selfless South Africans who were massacred in Sharpeville and other parts of South Africa, sacrificing for the achievement of the liberation and freedom that we enjoy. The National Imbizo Focus Week will take place from the 9th to the 15th of April under the theme, Together We Move South Africa Forward. This year, the Mandela Centenary celebrations forms a big part of the Focus Week under the sub-theme, Be the Legacy. The executive will be engaging with communities in various parts of the country. The respective programs of ministers will be communicated in due course through the diary of events of the Cabinet. On youth employment, President Cyril Ramaphosa is expected to launch the pilot of the Youth Employment Services Initiative at the River Sands Hub in Diepsloot on the 27th of March 2018. This initiative, in collaboration with the private sector, aims to empower 1 million young people over the next 5 years to become economically active, either as a member of the workforce or running their own businesses or finding their passion for further study. President Cyril Ramaphosa will undertake working visits to the Republic of Mozambique and the Republic of Zimbabwe, respectively, on Saturday, the 17th March 2018. The visits will mainly focus on strengthening bilateral relations with the above-mentioned countries. The President will also exchange views on peace and security matters in the region and the continent, and further deliberate on global issues of mutual interest. Cabinet congratulates Ntsiki Biyela, South Africa's first black woman winemaker who launched her own brand. With a degree in viticulture from Stellenbosch University plus 13 years working experience, her Aslina wines will in 2018 sell 12,000 bottles in the USA, Germany, Taiwan, and Ghana. Cabinet congratulates Caster Semenya on breaking the South African 1,000 meters record that stood for 35 years at the Athletics Grand Prix meeting held at Tex in Pretoria. Caster won the race in a time of 2 hours, 35 minutes and 44 seconds, beating the old, 2 minutes, yes. Thank you that you are alert. 2 minutes, 35 seconds, beating the old record set in 1983 by Elise Wicksell by almost 2 seconds. Cabinet also commends Semenya for fulfilling her long-held goal to get a university degree when she completed her diploma in sports science at the Northwest University in Potch. Cabinet expresses our sincere condolences to the friends and families of Honorable Member of Parliament, Comrade Loliwa Fezeka, who was killed in a car crash in the Eastern Cape last week as she was busy doing her constituency work. Cabinet also sends condolences to the loved ones of South Africa's ambassador to Sweden, Ms. Faith Radebe, who passed on Tuesday, the 13th March 2018. She was previously the Inspector General of Intelligence in South Africa. All appointments are subject to the verification of qualifications and relevant clearance. The first appointment is that of Dr. Philemon Mjwacha as Director General of the Department of Science and Technology for an extended contract period of 3 years, commencing on the 1st of April 2018. Second one is that of Ms. Memme Sijosingwe as Secretary General at the Office of the Chief Justice for an extended contract period of 3 years, effective from the 1st of April 2018. The third one is of Ms. Tuli Ikhatebe as Executive Director at the Center of Public Service Innovation for an extended contract period of 6 months. The fourth one is of Mr. Tilivali Archibald Ramawa as the Chief Financial Officer of the National Electronic Media Institute of South Africa. And the fifth one is that of the Board of Centec, Mr. Makhatumilo, the reappointment as a non-executive director, Mr. Lumkom Tinde, and Dr. Sandile Malinga, as well as Ms. Elizabeth Malaka. On the Board of Broadband Infraco, Mr. Mandla Ngobo, his reappointment as a non-executive director and the chairperson, Ms. Noktula Silamulela, her reappointment as a non-executive director, Mr. Gift Mpefu, a non-executive director, Ms. Zandile Matilda Kabini, a non-executive director, and lastly, Ms. Jennifer Schreiner, a non-executive director. On the Board of SAPO, Mr. Comfort Ngidi, his reappointment as chairperson, Ms. Nomatlubi Simamane, reappointment as deputy chair, Advocate Juliana Khalitlani Rasitaba as non-executive director, and Dr. Charles Nwaila, non-executive director. That brings us to the end of the cabinet briefing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. Can we take questions? I think I'll start with Cape Town this time. Linda, Paul, Lindsay, Thabo, in that order.
Thank you. Good morning, Minister. Linda Insor, Business Day. There were reports in Business Day this morning that Cabinet had discussed the position of the Commissioner of SARS, Tom Mayani, and his removal, and his replacement with an interim commissioner. If you could comment, please, on that. Also, I understand that Minister Radebe has resent the IRP back to Cabinet for reprocessing. If you could perhaps comment on the reasons for that and what is being reconsidered. And just thirdly, on the processing by Cabinet of the liquor bill, what is your view on the complete ban of all alcohol advertising that is proposed by the Department of Health and its effect on the media sector as Minister of Communications? Thank you.
I'm largely covered. Paul Vecchiardi from Bloomberg, largely covered. Just has Cabinet been notified or informed on any changes in the SARS top leadership? Thank you.
Lindsay Dentlinger, Eyewitness News. Just with regard to the SASSA matter, while Cabinet was being briefed yesterday, at the same time, officials from the agency was telling a portfolio committee that it won't have a cash service provider up and running by July. There's still the court case outstanding. So on what basis is Cabinet so convinced? How did you determine that you're satisfied that there will be no glitches when there are also the matter of a contingency plan that hasn't been costed, haven't quite worked out how that will all work out if they were to have to transport people to get their grants at pay points? So just if you could just elaborate how Cabinet comes to its conclusion that it's satisfied, given that there are all these outstanding issues that still have to be clarified.
Thank you. My name is Thabo Mngoni. I work for the Sunday Times. I'm largely covered by Linda's questions, but I would add to say on the liquor bill, has anyone at the SABC, be it executives or the board, raised the financial implications of the liquor bill, specifically on the public broadcaster? Thanks.
Thank you very much. Minister, should I take the Pretoria or you want to respond? Okay, Pretoria, can we take?
We don't have questions at the moment.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for the questions. Just to summarize on all SARS-related matters, none of these issues were brought before Cabinet, either through the Acting Minister of Finance or through, yes, the Minister is abroad. Yeah, it excites, eh? Yes. Yes, none of these issues were actually brought before Cabinet, and therefore they could not actually be discussed. If Minister Khatebe has redirected the issues around the IPP to be submitted to Cabinet, it means they will serve in the next Cabinet. On the SASSA issues, the Interministerial Committee has been hard at work trying to deal with these issues. Initially, the indication was that those that may be affected with regard to cash payments are in the tune of 2.8 million. But with the work that has been done under the stewardship of the Interministerial Committee, those numbers have actually gone down to around 800,000. It's around 700, 800. Yes, just around that number, which is something that after this media briefing, I would again be joining the team. That is both the technical team and the political leadership of the IMC to get further information around these issues. Yes, what we also received was what was presented in court and what was also identified as a challenge, and hence our meeting today is to get a report around any work related to the contingency, how it can be done, and how it has actually been proposed. And the Interministerial Committee will apply its mind on this matter and see how best we can then move. On the liquor bill, I have met with the SABC. I have been briefed by them on the views that they presented prior to me being in this portfolio, and worse now with their own financial challenges and the debt that is owed to them. And they are putting up proposals that it has been agreed that they will need to be given attention between the Department of Trade and Industry, ourselves, SABC, and Treasury, because of, yes, the serious implications. But what is also of importance, was to also say to the board of SABC, let us also become innovative and look at other areas where we can attract possible advertisement and promotions that can bring more resources into the space of the public broadcaster. As a minister, what is my view? I am actually held by the view that has been expressed by Cabinet, but of course, all of us have to look at the different sectors and ensure that they do not actually suffer, and hence the need to go beyond contesting around the advertising of alcohol, but look at how we can strengthen the capacity of SABC to be innovative, to be able to collect the 25 billion that is owed to them, and to look at other issues. Because as a nation, we do understand also what has been the implications of alcohol in our society, and therefore we definitely have to all work together in finding an everlasting and sustainable funding strategy for the South African Broadcasting Corporation. We were going to meet with Minister Nene. Unfortunately, he had to travel. Our meeting has been rescheduled, and we're quite certain that we would find one another on other options that have been looked at, because even the sport rights for SABC is one of those things that we're looking at that we do believe can actually help to turn around the situation of SABC. On the basis of what has been agreed upon in terms of what is contained in the liquor bill. Okay. And that's what we are attending to now. Thanks. As I've said, all SARS matters, including the issues of the leadership, management, and any other related matter, they have not actually been fed to Cabinet because, yes, we didn't have any financial matters being brought before Cabinet except the VBS matter.
Pretoria, do you still want to say you don't have any questions? Okay, it's gone and it's gone. Okay, this is the last round, Cape Town. I'll start with Sindiswa. Yeah, Andisiwe, yes, sorry. And then it will be the one at the back, I'm not sure. And then Thabo, because it's your second round, let me tell the first ones. Andisiwe.
Andisiwe Makinana from City Press. It's just a clarity-seeking question, Minister, on your meeting with the SABC. Did you say while you were in your previous portfolio? And yeah, I need to understand. In my present portfolio. Oh, okay, all right, thanks. Okay.
Morning, Minister. Nasipi from ANN7. I just want to find out if there has been, any engagement from, the International Relations Department or, with the diplomats regarding, the Minister of Home Affairs from, Australia, saying that, they are working on a method of granting white South African farmers visas. That was reported yesterday. And then also on the VBS, being placed under curatorship, there's been, suggestions that Treasury, and also the Reserve Bank, including the Registrar of Banks, rather, having placed the banks without, seeking, rather alternative avenues, including, confirming with the PIC and others. So is Cabinet, satisfied with how that was handled?
Yeah, just on the liquor bill and the SABC, Minister, is there a figure that was presented to you to say this is how much the SABC would lose if this bill would come into effect? And also, when does Cabinet or the responsible department intend submitting the bill to Parliament?
Hi, Minister. Paul Vecchiarto from Bloomberg again. Just the Deputy President, it seems to have gone all quiet. Is he attending cabinet meetings? And has he been made leader of government business here in Parliament? Thank you.
Minister. Wendell from Reuters. Minister, I just wanted to find out on the IRP, when do you expect that to serve before for cabinet? Yeah, here I am. Before cabinet. And the other question relates, I'm in the absence of having the hard copy before me, so I'm not quite sure if I heard correctly. And this relates to the land issue. You said that a cabinet accepts the proposal to amend the constitution. Now, my understanding is that seems to be, dare I say, almost like making it as a fait accompli. It's my understanding in terms of the mechanism that the Constitutional Review Committee will look to see if they are going to review the constitution. But I get the sense, though, that that you guys are suggesting that changing the constitution is going to happen.
Thanks. Abongwe Kobokana from the SABC Radio News. Minister, on the issue of SASSA, we understand that SASSA went to court asking the very same court to adjust its own judgment in terms to extend the period for this migration of taking over from CPS by the Post Bank. Was it explained to you why they seek this extension? What sort of problems that they foresee that they could not deal with it within this time period? Thanks.
So just a clarification on what the Minister said earlier about the SASSA. I just want to clarify, are you saying there are further meetings today with the IMC to discuss the contingency and other measures? Did I understand you correctly?
Thank you. And so I think I've clarified myself. Oh, sorry. Let me state it properly. In my current position, I had a meeting with the SABC board last week, and amongst other critical issues we discussed was the financial challenges that SABC is faced with, but also the repositioning of SABC going into the future, as well as looking at the recommendations that are before them on how best we can deal with their financial challenges, and hence the need to meet with DTI, and as well as with the with the Finance Ministry, so that then we can find a collaborative solution that also becomes sustainable for the public broadcaster. The announcement by the Australian minister happened when Cabinet was already in session. And unfortunately, Cabinet could not reflect, but the Department of International Relations and Cooperation is on record. They've issued a statement. I've seen the statement issued late yesterday afternoon, stating the South African government's view on these issues, including matters of diplomatic relations. But as Cabinet, we have not actually looked at it because Cabinet starts at 8:30. And by the time when the matter was raised, we don't go in with phones, so there are no leaks in the Cabinet. We only picked it up after the meeting, and hence Minister Sisulu's response in that regard. As we say, Cabinet is committed towards the transformation of the banking sector. Secondly, Cabinet's understanding and support is that the curatorship must seek to reposition VBS as well as protect the depositors. Included in that is the interaction with the PIC in ensuring, therefore, that things are done properly, as well as the legal standing of VBS. We know that Sizwe Nzaluba has been appointed as the curator, and we are hopeful that this will not actually diminish this noble initiative, but it will set a process that can make it to be of standing, including on the issues that they have formally raised themselves on their own concerns and frustrations, but we're looking forward to a solution that's going to help us to see VBS as one of those vehicles that demonstrate our commitment towards transforming the sector, but most importantly, an innovation that must also be supported and financially being given the muscle by our own funding agencies. Thabo, we don't have, I didn't get the figure. We didn't get the figure, but we were looking at the merits and demerits. And in it, we're also looking at how the matter was also handled, and how SABC would have preferred the matter to be managed in a phased-in approach, and many other proposals. All the other financials, they've been put before both the Finance Committee of the SABC and the Treasury, and their own understanding of the figures is not at the same par, and hence the need, therefore, not to punt the numbers until such time they both agree on the financial implications. The Deputy President is busy on duty. We have an item in Cabinet that is called Leader of Government Business. The President has already appointed Deputy President as Leader of Government Business. And since he has been appointed, he has had 2 meetings dealing with matters that relate to both Parliament and Cabinet. And even yesterday, when the President was busy preparing for the question time, our Cabinet was chaired by the Deputy President. So he's hard at work in the spirit of Tumamin. On the IPPs, no time frames, as I've said, we have not been given the information around this matter by the Department of Energy, and I'm sure when the Cabinet processes, because Cabinet does not sit every week, Minister Khatebe will take it to the cluster, because if it has to come, it will then have to go to the cluster, because we believe it is a matter that also requires other departments such as Trade and Industry, Department of Labor, Department of Mining, Public Enterprise. So it will go through that cluster and then come back to Cabinet. And as you are aware, we will also be going on recess unless the matter is put as an urgent matter that requires a special Cabinet. On the land matter, what Cabinet states is, we are satisfied that a lot of work has been done within the confines of the law and the existing rules of the game as enshrined in the Constitution. Where there may be a need, because it will not be the first time that the Constitution may be tampered with. Where there may be a need, we will have to actually deal with these issues, because, again, the expropriation of land and the ownership of land goes beyond just issues of agriculture, but it also deals with issues of urban land, property ownership, and water use rights for those who have access to land, including access to markets and financial support. And therefore, we would, of course, appreciate the consultations that would actually unfold, whilst not actually being steadfast to say the Constitution is sacrosanct. The Constitution of South Africa has been tampered with so many a times. Thank you, Sisi. So many a times. So it is those things that we need to appreciate. Where there is a need to do something for the good of the country, let us do that. Where there is a possibility of working within the confines of the Constitution, let us also do exactly that. Thank you. Oh, the SASSA issue, I think I have tried to respond on the SASSA issue. We will actually, all of us, work tirelessly to ensure that the issues of the contingency plan, particularly for the ones that have to be paid cash, are done in a manner where we don't open them to risk. We deal with the security challenges, but most importantly, we give certainty that they will receive. And therefore, the submission that has been taken to court, in fact, we have to make, SASSA has to make a submission by tomorrow. And hence our meeting again today to look at the quality of the submission and the details of the rollout of any intervention that is now being considered around what the court has actually declared. And we hope that that would actually be considered favorably. And as I've said, even today, we worked till late last night after cabinet. We will still be working, and that gap has been shifted from 2.8 million to almost 780 something, which we believe that we must find a way of finding an amicable solution on it. And hence the proposal that then goes to the court to say, grant us an extension just on this management of the 700 and something. Thanks.
Thank you, Sis Pumla. I really do appreciate that. Thank you very much, ma'am. My name is Lukhanya Khalata. I work for the SABC. Just on the issue of land and the expropriation and all the decisions that have been taken, did Cabinet discuss the issue of just the kind of racial tension or the racial polarization that has been sparked by this issue of expropriation of land without compensation? And is there some concern that this matter is, that this matter is becoming problematic in the sense that there's a little bit of fear mongering that's happening from the white community side about exactly how this expropriation of land is being proposed to, how it will be done and the proposals around it. Was there any discussions around that? Please, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Minister, just a point of clarity. What distinguishes the 780,000 from the rest? Why can the rest be dealt with and the 780,000, there's a problem? What is the problem? Thank you.
Thank you very much. You'll pardon me, I've got a bit of a chest thing, so that's why I keep holding back my breath. Lucanio, the issue of racial polarization, I think all of us South Africans will understand that the racial divide in this country was too deep. And the remnants continue to show themselves, not only on the issue of land, simple things around access to schools, simple things around housing development, and many other things that happen in our society. But where we are as a nation, I think we've made a commitment through our constitution of building a non-racial society, of promoting equality. And we know that when you have to deal with the real structures of a divided nation, it would actually create discomfort. But we are also quite aware that it is not correct to also conclude that it's the white community in its totality that is opposed. But it's a number, it's a particular group within, precisely because of a highly politicized society we live in, there are extremes on both sides. There are extremes who want to just invade land and do pick and choose and occupy somebody's land and stuff. And there will be those that are saying, you're not going to tamper with what I have heard, and demonstrating supremacy. But both extremes don't represent the South Africa we live in, including the South Africa we're aspiring to have. And we must never tire to engage them. What we are quite comfortable with is that we have found even organized formations such as Agri-SA being very active in this process, providing solutions, providing proposals, including the work that has been done under the current land reform processes of the 50-50, of the transfer of skills, of the sharing of markets. What we're saying is it must not be left to the good heart. It must be something that is driven as a nation-building agenda. Of course, you will get concerned, and Cabinet does get concerned when people will even go to an extent of wanting to go internationally to protect white supremacy. And to a certain extent also projecting themselves as the custodians of the interest of the white community. We are a government of the people of South Africa. We will never do anything to undermine a very strategic sector of our economy, which is the agricultural sector, but we also believe this is an opportunity where those who tilt the land also have some sense of ownership, because it will then increase more responsibility and even productivity. Thirdly, we do believe that if we have to deal with an inclusive society, we can't have black people living behind a mine dump in Meadowlands and have white people living in the leafy suburbs and have a city that is called a city with a self-made forest, Johannesburg. We all have to be inclusive. The freeway can't divide Alex and Sandton forever. Therefore, the land that can integrate Alex and what you call Alex and Sandton and the neighboring communities must help to build this new nation. And it is that has been said, including what the President said in responding to the questions yesterday, that we are a responsible nation, we are a responsible government. We are where we are out of a negotiated settlement. And we have been able to tolerate one another. So yes, we are concerned about these kind of utterances, but what we are quite certain about, it is a minority within the majority of South Africans and institutions that are doing these issues, that are making these utterances and threats. And we also are quite determined to interact with our international partners as well as other nations, as what has happened with the minister in Australia and so forth, that we should find a way of pleading with the world to afford us to deal with matters that are of national interest for South Africa.
There was a last question from Lynn.
Oh, that is a group of social grant beneficiaries who are not in the banking system, who receive their money through hard cash and cannot actually be moved to any of the existing options. And that is the group that we are looking at, whose majority is in your rural areas, and mostly some of them are frail and aged, and it is those that we are now trying to attend to them, because they also deserve to be given certainty and be assisted whilst we deal with the relocation, the phasing out of CPS and building the capacity of the state to deal with these matters.
Thank you very much. We've come to the end.